towns that I savor, like my hometown that I favor, that old place down the long road that I'm traveling to. There's the jokes at the barber, told by Cleve from the hardware, about the stories that always make the news. Our town, wherever I may roam, I'll always have a place that I call home. Our town, it's very plain to see, there'll always be a part of you in me.
Known for generations as a railway town, the story of Smiths Falls is interwoven with a major event in Canadian history.
Hello, I'm Barry Penhale. An engineering masterpiece took place here during the early 1800s with the building of the Rideau Canal. The canal system connecting the Ottawa River with Lake Ontario at Kingston was part of the Duke of Wellington's grand plan for the defense of Canada. Since then, the system has served as an immigration route, an artery for the shipping of supplies and raw materials, as well as passengers en route to the Great Lakes. Now, well over 150 years later, with canal headquarters at Smiths Falls, the Rideau has become what it is known as today, one of North America's most popular inland cruising systems.
The town of Smiths Falls in Lanark County was described in the 1867 Fuller's Directory as a thriving village advantageously situated on the Rideau Canal and a station on the Brockville and Ottawa Railway. Its position on the canal brings it in direct water communication with Ottawa and Montreal. Smiths Falls possesses a good water power and contains some fine manufacturing establishments. At this point in the town's history, it had evolved from a reticent beginning into a prosperous community of 1,400 people. In Smiths Falls today, at the intersection of Beckwith and Main, one is reminded of the early growth and development when traffic in the downtown core centered around the industries of manufacturing and transportation. As perennial as the flowing waters of the Rideau, the history of the town is recounted in the story of this waterway. The period was the early 1800s. The memory of the War of 1812 was still fresh. In Europe, Britain was fighting her war of survival against Napoleon. In Canada, she was determined to protect her interests. A vital military establishment and an active shipbuilding industry existed at Fort Henry. Water access to Kingston, the key to Lake Ontario, was essential in maintaining a stronghold. The British recognized that the St. Lawrence River had proven vulnerable to American interference, and that an interior waterway would provide a back door to Kingston. Eyes were turned to the area north of the St. Lawrence, called the Rideau District. A plan to link the numerous lakes and rivers with a system of canals would also help populate the region with settlers loyal to the Crown. Military surveyors studied the feasibility and reported to the Iron Duke, Duke of Wellington. Approval was given to the undertaking, and Colonel John Bye, a military engineer, was sent from England as superintendent of the works. In 1826, Scottish stonemasons, joined by Irish and French laborers, moved into the area as construction began. The project was enormous, a major engineering challenge that was to prove more costly in dollars and lives than ever anticipated. Blockhouses were built at strategic points as a defense mechanism. Locks, weirs, and dams, like this one at Jones Falls, rising 45 feet, were constructed. In the wetlands, swamp fever or malaria spread rampant. Colonel By himself was a near victim. The impact was devastating, yet in spite of the rigors of the Canadian climate, the building continued. By argued that the canals and locks should be larger and deeper to accommodate potential commercial traffic. Costs rose. Finally, in 1832, the task was completed. Colonel By was never to enjoy the accomplishment of his efforts. Under heavy criticism for the escalating costs, he was recalled to England within days of completion of the project to face an inquiry. Although absolved of fault, he died a year later, broken in spirit. The industry the canal brought to the area created a boom in the tiny settlement of Smiths Falls. The land at this site had been granted to Loyalist Major Thomas Smith. After experiencing financial difficulties, the property went up for public sale and was subsequently sold to Abel Russell Ward and James Simpson. Ward, a lumberman, and Simpson, an engineer of the canal, constructed mills, opened roads, and laid out the town. The water power of the Rideau drove the wheels of industry, and with it came prosperity. Of the various mills and foundries, the largest from this heyday was formed in 1846. It was spearheaded by a pioneer manufacturer, Ebenezer Frost, whose sons, Francis and Charles, came into business with partner Alexander Wood. The Frost and Wood Manufacturing Company grew into one of Canada's most renowned farm implement manufacturers.
It's harvest time in Alberta and in Saskatchewan. There's new hay ricks and there's mowers, and the plowing's now like fun. The farmers all like their equipment. They say it's better than good. It's the best in farm machinery, and it's built by Frost and Woods.
Shipping products worldwide, the company was to last for 118 years. The industries along the river have changed, but the memories linger on. The main thoroughfare of Beckwith Street, once referred to as a miniature Broadway, boasting a width of 100 feet, intersects the waterway, symbolizing the lasting bond of the town and her beginnings. From a small, isolated mill site, Smiths Falls has evolved into the 20th century, preserving the inheritance of her forefathers. The homes carry the tradition of earlier years, while the Rideau Canal is a part of daily life. The waterway, now largely devoted to pleasure craft, is a tribute to Colonel John By. Although never used for military purposes, By's vision for the accommodation of commercial traffic on the waterway was to become a reality. For decades after its completion in 1832, steamboats carrying goods and passengers plied these waters, creating growth and activity along the banks of the Rideau River. Three factors were to alter that trend: improved American-British relations, the opening of the St. Lawrence canals, and railway fever of the 1850s. Trains spelled change to transportation patterns and soon took over. Today, the railway heritage of Smiths Falls is preserved in the museum in the old Canadian Northern Railway Station. The Canadian Northern Railway at one end of town and the Brockville-Ottawa Railway down at Old Slize Rapids were to have an immediate impact. One of the biggest single railway projects in the world, the building of the Canadian Pacific, would mark a new era. Smiths Falls not only became known as a railway town, but a CPR town. By the 1890s, both the community and the railway were basking in newfound prosperity. The CPR became the biggest employer. Smiths Falls was a clearinghouse for goods ranging from Oriental tea to dressed beef from Chicago slaughterhouses. Engineers, brakemen, shopmen, conductors all lived as neighbors on the residential streets. There were maintenance yards, roundhouses, and coal yards. The sound of the steam whistles echoed through the night as continuous shifts of railwaymen boarded trains and returned home after their run. Two of these neighbors, Charlie Haskins and Red Cummings, relived their railroading days in my company.
I come to Smiths Falls in 1918, and then I started in 1920 on the CPR and train service. It's a lot different today working than when we worked. Them days we had to carry wood for the van, we had to get the coal, we had to get the water, we had to go around and get the stuff out of the stores. You never was done, and you prided your work when you worked for them.
As far as the railroad goes, yes, I was like Mr. Cummings. I enjoyed my job once I got going, got to know it. It's a big job when you start out first to learn everything, because it's different than any other job. The conductor is the boss. You go and you get your orders, and you take them and give them to the engineer, and you read them over with him together, and you check your watches. And once the train starts out, the conductor has full responsibility of that train. Oh, we used to have great times on the railroad, We'd go up and play cards in the van, and as Mr. Cummings said, we had to carry the water and the wood and everything for the vans then. We slept right in the van, We call it a van. It's a caboose. Some of them call it a caboose,
This site, adjacent to the Rideau Canal, is one of the most historic spots identified with Smiths Falls. In the 1850s, entrepreneur Joshua Bates built two modern mills beside the roaring waters of Old Slize Rapids. Also built a large frame house, now the Heritage House Museum.
Bates's dream was as paradoxical as the man. He speculated that the focus of industry for the growing community would take place here at Old Slize, where the railway and canal were to intersect. This idea did not sit well with other mill owners situated upstream. To appeal to both rail and water traffic, the front and back of the home were designed with identical facades. Also quite unique to the property plan was a two-story privy. When construction of the Brockville and Ottawa Railway was delayed, Bates's dream collapsed in financial ruin. The house later became a subject for storytelling. One tale recounted time after time by passengers aboard the trains was of seeing a horse's head appear in this second-story window. Joshua Bates, a man of ambition and enterprise, believed in the code of hard work and determination. His failure was blotted from history until the restoration of Heritage House, which today preserves the story of Smiths Falls, its failures and successes. There are those in Smiths Falls whose lifelong careers have made them goodwill ambassadors of the Rideau Canal system. One is Glenn Van Dusen, who spent many years assigned as lockmaster at Old Slize.
Lockmaster is in charge of a lock station, which could consist from 1 to 8 locks. Well, to go all the way through Old Slize, which is 2 locks and a swing bridge, it would take about 30 minutes. If a boat's going downstream, we swing the bridge and open the top gates, let the boat into the locks. We close the bridge, close the gates, close the 2 top sluices, and we open the center sluices, and that lowers the boat down to the water, to the level in the second locks at the bottom. I've had several jobs until I got on the canal. It was the best. It's, like I say, it's outdoor work, and you're out in the fresh air all the time, meeting people. See people come to the boaters and that, they seem to be relaxed, and on holiday they enjoy the water, and it's to get away from the swift pace of life that today.
Synonymous with the relationship to the canal has been the early boat-building industry. At the Poonama Lee locks above Smiths Falls, Bob Snay treated me to a cruise on the Grand D. Harold Nichol recounted the story of the Nichol Boat Works and his uncle Davy.
He built all these boats single-handedly. I can't recall of anybody giving him any help in the process, and he used hand tools, hand drills, hand planes, all the way right through. So the number of boats that he built, it meant that he was going night and day. Yes, he built them all on 34 Lombard Street in the workshop that's still standing. Monitors, rowing skiffs, sailing skiffs, and these bigger boats that we call launches. So this boat was built in 1927 for Gordon Edwards, who was a member of Parliament at the time, and it was his biggest boat, and maybe it was his most luxurious. I mean, it was well appointed, sheeted on the inside and outside, and he had lights under the cowl and all sorts of features that he wouldn't have on some of the other ones. It was a rich man's boat and for a rich man. It's powered by a 6-cylinder script engine, and it's original, still here, and it works very, very well. It starts every year, so Bob tells me, and we use the same spark plugs over and over, and it's just a marvel.
Well, I started here on the canal in 1951. We had a cruiser, a VIP boat, which I went to operate. With the cruiser, you never knew who you might have on. What I like to keep thinking about is my trip to Ottawa to pick up Prince Charles and Lady Di. I took them on their cruise up the Rideau. Met them personally. That was my biggest thrill, I think, on the canal. It's something that everybody don't get to do. I knew the water from Ottawa to Kingston, the length of the canal. I often thought I could run it backwards with my eyes shut. I knew it so well. I'd been over it so many times. And where I live now, I can lay in bed in the morning and hear the boys locking boats in the locks. I can sit on my veranda and watch the boats go in the lock and come out, which is very nice. Or being around the river and working on the river so long that it's something to be able to watch all this stuff. Makes you feel at home.
The comments of Keith Weedmark, or Weedy as he is fondly called, have given me a wonderful sense of what the river means to this town. The canal is Smiths Falls and has an irrevocable relationship with the community. Mill site, military storage depot, manufacturing center, railway town. All of these roles have been played with dignity. The residents here are proud of their colorful past. The Lanark County legacy is being upheld with pride for future generations. As to all things there is a season, symbolically each year, Smiths Falls celebrates her beginnings with the reopening of the Rideau Canal system. The town is host to thousands of visitors who travel this main thoroughfare, sharing a love and respect for the historic waterway.
I'll see the folks up on Main Street who will always take the time for a story over coffee at the old Five and Dime. The flag on our town hall through the years has flown free, a tribute to our hometown's history. Town, wherever I may roam, I'll always have a place that I call home. Our town, it's very plain to see, there'll always be a part of you in me. There'll always be a part of you in me. There'll always be a part of you.